Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dream Design Podcast with Amy Lee, the show that challenges you to design your dreams so that you can start attracting them. And I am so excited about my guest today. You guys, I have been following this gorgeous goddess for years. She is one of those people that when you first come into the spiritual coach community, you're just like, oh, and here she is on my podcast today, the incredible Stephanie Bellinger, who is a spiritual mentor and transformational coach for women. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hey, Amy, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited and can't wait to jam out.
I know, I'm so excited to have you here. I'm just like basking in your energetic.
Oh my gosh.
It's not every day that I get that, right? Like usually people, like I'm the one that has the bigger energy, but like here I'm just like, feel like I'm in the sun. It's great. Okay, so what I always like to ask people, because what we're really doing on this show is we're really trying to inspire women that you don't have to necessarily follow the status quo, and that there are a lot of people that have different things on their hearts, especially in the light worker field, right? Where like we know that we're meant for something bigger. Hello, Source, I see you. We are meant for something. I scratch my nose whenever Source is present. So if you see me sitting here, I'm not picking my nose, it's just acknowledging. And so a lot of women, they don't really have the landscape or like the map of what it looks like to be able to do what you really feel called to do and what you're inspired to do. So I would love for you to tell the folks here, tell the folks at home, how did you become, or what was your trajectory to becoming a spiritual mentor and transformational coach?
Well, I have a pretty lengthy story, but I don't know that I didn't initially see this on my path, obviously, like many people, like they go on a journey to really step into their purpose. I believe we are our purpose and it evolves with us. But I didn't exactly see it evolving to this. I started my personal and spiritual growth journey when I was a teenager. I was in a really abusive relationship when I was 14 to 20. And that's when I developed a lot of different practices like meditation. I was communicating with spirit guides. I was connecting with my higher self. I was started working out. I lost a lot of weight. And so I completely transformed my mind, body, and soul during the relationship to be able to gain the strength to leave. So after I left, I basically decided, I declared actually to my higher self and God that I declared this a little bit before I left, that I promise that when I get out of this, I will make the rest of my life the best of my life. I will always do what I love and I'll help people in some way. And I'll share my gifts. And so fast forward, at that time I was a makeup artist, and because I'm an artist first and foremost, and I always wanted to do something with my art. And so I started down that path of being a makeup artist, supporting women, and also just feeling really confident in their skin and like feeling really good about themselves. Not that you need makeup to feel good about yourself, but you know what I mean? Then it led me to eventually, I'm like shortening this story so much, becoming a personal trainer. When I was living in New York City, after a few other business ventures didn't go as planned, or I shifted directions or whatever, I decided to become a personal trainer because I had always said if I didn't do something with my art, I would do something to really impact people in some way. As I was personal training, I realized that I always knew I wanted to work for myself. I did not want to stay working for someone else. I knew that from like a long, long time. But as I was personal training, I was realizing I was helping people with way more than just their body and like their nutrition. I was helping them with their mindset and like really getting into that. And throughout this whole time, I was into my spirituality, all the oracle decks and the crystals. Like I just kept that kind of on the DL. That was just like my thing. And around 2015, I was introduced to psychedelics, to working with psychedelics, plant medicine for healing and expansion. And I was already doing my own personal development for healing from the trauma I experienced in the past. I was doing EMDR therapy, EFT, hypnosis, and I was really committed to really healing and shifting what was, I guess, off balance in my psyche and in my body from what happened. And I was making great strides. And eventually it was led to plant medicine. And after I had my first experience with plant medicine, everything made sense. It was like, holy shit, now I completely understand all my whole journey leading up to that point. It was as if my soul was literally guiding me to that level of awareness, because the way that my consciousness expanded and opened up in that experience, I just had this inner knowing of, oh, yep, this is what I'm meant to do. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And I remember telling a friend around that time, I want to bring all these women together. That are like, looking for their purpose, like committed to living out their purpose and creating their dreams. And I want to bring all this spiritual woo woo people together because I know they're all out there. I just don't know many of them. And that's what inspired me to create my Spiritual Boss Babes community, which is how this was all born. Because I didn't know exactly what I was going to offer. For a while, I was trying to blend personal, like fitness and mindset. But that's like when it was born. And then I just realized how I could help people and what to offer, and started sharing different things and sharing my own journey, because I've been through many transformations inside and out, and connecting to the source of who I am and getting my business out there and everything like that. And so basically that's how I started.
It's so, I just like, I felt like I was on every step of the journey with you when you were talking about that. And having the essay history that I have, I've done EMDR, obviously I'm, like you, neuroenergetic certified, all that stuff. So I've done all the EFT, and it's true. Like you get to this point where you're just like, oh my gosh, like I can't ever see it the way I saw it again. Right. Like I just have a completely different perspective. And I love that you talked about the plant medicine piece, because I think plant medicine gets such a bad rap. It gets such a stereotype.
Really?
Oh yeah. I think
it's funny. I guess not in my like realm because I'm like surrounded by people who facilitate and who talk about it.
Well, right. Like, I mean, obviously for me, I think where you are like out of the cosmic closet, like, running around, like totally, like knowing who you are. I think that myself and maybe some of my viewers and stuff, they're just kind of like creeping out, kind of sticking their eyes out a little bit. And so I think, especially in some of the more conservative circles, plant medicine is still kind of like a taboo, right?
Yeah. And the reason that is because the powers that were, do not want it to be seen as something that can reconnect people to their multidimensional gifts and to the source of who they are and to what reality really is. And so it has this stigma, when really there's tons of research on these medicines, psilocybin, ayahuasca, many others that have been proven to completely heal PTSD and many other things.
Right. And it's so interesting you say that, because I was brought to that awareness under the influence of plant medicine. Like I remember thinking about like, hold on, there are all these people, like, because what I understood was, and I think we can take the conversation there, but there's a very real faction of humanity that is tasked with trying to disempower people, right? To give them the illusion that they have to be dependent on a system, dependent on a group of people.
Prescription drugs that keep you sick.
Right, exactly. And but also just for people to vote a certain way to protect them, right? Like people who, you trading your sovereignty for protection. And so there's this idea, but then I also thought, but this is also, in my opinion, the same group of people that are, hold on, I'm going to stay with this thought, the same group of people that are wanting to legalize plant medicine. So that didn't really make sense to me. And then when I had plant medicine one time, I was like, wait a second, because there's two aspects of plant medicine. There's part of it, and I'm speaking of like the recreational kind. There's part of it where it's like, it causes you to be numbed and to fall into a hypnotic state where all you want to do is come home from work, do your thing, and like fall asleep, eat some Cheetos, whatever, right? So there's that part of it that serves the service to self paradigm. But then
it depends what plant medicine too.
Well, right. Well, I'm talking about this one in particular and what I experienced. So then, but you've got this other side of like fighting that to get to that next level perspective, right? To be able to connect to that consciousness. And it's almost like you're swimming through really dirty current to get to that place where you clear that fog. And
Mhm.
I think the idea is that most people don't want to do that. Most people don't want to fight that euphoric couch feeling to get to that place. So that was the mindset, that was the
Mhm.
realization that I had. Well, of course, we want to keep everybody in this way, but when you're talking about the more sophisticated plant medicine, yeah, absolutely. Like it's causing people. I mean, it was that one show that's on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it. And it talks about how there was a plant medicine experiment they did during Woodstock, right? And they were
Mm.
trying to use it to control people, and it ended up.
What kind of plant medicine?
I want to say it was. I would have to look it up like in the middle of a
Hmm.
podcast. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's on this show called like Why You Think What You Think or it's something like that. And it
Hmm.
talked about how this guy who was in an experiment literally like went off book and told everybody about what was going on. And
I Oh, I was just gonna say something, but go ahead, sorry.
no, no, you go ahead because I'm totally
I was
listening.
just gonna say, I personally think that if everyone did freaking mushrooms or microdose, there would be no fucking war. There would be peace on earth, and it would be change the freaking world if everyone microdosed and was on mushrooms. That's my belief personally. Like, you obviously have to be ready for it, but like the consciousness that comes through, and in your right set and setting, it's transformational. It's literally like, and did you know that our DNA is like super similar to mushrooms? Wild. You should watch the documentary Fantastic Fungi.
I did watch that one. I loved that
Mhm.
one. I think that was on Amazon Prime, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was. I watched that one. I loved
So
that one when
good.
they did the people and they supported them on their mushroom journey when they was it MS that they had or it was something it was something maybe they were terminally ill and they would sit with them like in their sessions and like support them while they were having their
Yeah,
trip.
which is also really important to have, facilitator. You want to be in the right set and setting. If you're not, if you're doing these things recreationally or like in a party environment or mixing other things or not, setting the space or having the proper facilitation from someone who can guide you through it, then you're
Mhm.
not going to get the same, you're not going to really receive all of the actual benefits and power that you can from these sacred teachers.
Right. Absolutely. But I think one thing you said that I just wanted to talk about is you mentioned like, we would all be at peace and not at war, but then we also have to remember that the spirit of duality is part of the design too, right?
Hmm.
Like the fact that we don't all agree, the fact like so one of the downloads I had was that we started with this collective consciousness and the first thing it had to do in order to not be one thing, boring was to separate in some way. And so the
Hmm.
first division was light to dark, here to there, me to not me. So if that's the case, then when we put it all back together, whenever that happens and however that happens, the last thing that's going to happen is the absorption of that duality, which
Hmm.
means that we have to accept that forever, no matter what, this world is designed for people not to agree, for there to be black and white, for there to be good
Hmm.
and evil, so
I actually personally think that it's going to change personally. Yeah, like I think that's why we're going through the ascension right now. And, I used to think that too, and I pondered it a lot.
mhm,
And I also have had a lot of downloads and, things of, um, I don't know how it's all going to look, of course, but I do believe that there's that's what the new earth is shifting into, and I
yeah,
hope to certainly be here for that. But there's not going to be much space for the lower vibrational realm to really thrive in a world where most people are in their hearts and they're awake. And so, sure, I'm sure there will still be some aspect of, differentiation, but I do believe that we can live in our physical bodies on the planet and have it be a frequency of love and kindness. And I personally would like to hold that timeline and share that more. There's a lot of things that we're not even aware of that we're capable of. It's encoded in our DNA. We have a DNA that's 12-strand DNA, right? Like, about the junk DNA that's not actually junk. There's a lot of information in our cells that we don't that has been dormant or forgotten or turned off, that connects us to our multidimensional gifts, whatever.
Absolutely.
And to the source within who we are. And also, if you're familiar with Greg Braden, he has a book called God Codes. I found out about this because I literally, first of all, I love Greg Braden, but I typed in Google on my phone. Like, I don't normally use Google anymore, but I typed it because I was trying to look for something. There. But it auto-corrected to God Code. So I was like, okay, well, let me look up what that is. And I came across Greg Braden's book, God Codes, and he actually found that, it's a long story, but if anyone wants to YouTube it, there's videos on him explaining how the sequence, the numbers from our DNA translated, there's a thing called gematria there where you can
I'm Jewish, so I know gematria.
Yeah, so he translated the numbers from the DNA, and it's literally read in Hebrew, Sanskrit, and some other ancient language. It literally read, God lives eternal in the body, meaning in our DNA. And so from my journey and experience and different downloads that I've been receiving also, there's going to be more people are activating their DNA more and more and more. Especially right now, people's DNA is activating. This means dormant information is coming back online. This is why people are having increased intuition, maybe different wild dreams. A lot of people are opening their channel and their light language, various different things. And this is going to be happening more and more on a larger scale, especially with the sun, the thing that's shifting with the sun over the next few years. And so more people are going to be awake and aware, and they already are now, but it's going to be
we're getting a new center in human design, the solar plexus.
Oh yeah, in 2027, right?
27? Is it 27?
Okay. Yeah. And so as this is happening, imagine like more and more people waking up to realize that so many things we could do. We could heal anything. I personally don't believe that there should be any illness. Right. Like, because it happens because of the duality and all the things that are going on the planet, and the brainwashing and the food and
also the sharpening of the, of the soul. Like, if you think about, I'm very big into the raw material. It talks about the spectrum between service to others, service to self, right? So each of those aspects is bringing us closer or further away from that actualization. And when you were talking about ascension, I'm thinking like, okay, well, when we get to that ascended place, via like Jesus, Buddha, whatever, whoever it is that the Dalai Lama, whatever, there is another plane. And that other plane is perhaps where those ascension energies, where the higher beings are going to populate. Earth is more, to me, and again, this is not me overriding what I'm saying, this is me saying what I'm saying. Earth is like a schoolhouse. It's a one-room schoolhouse where we all have the illusion that each one of us, that your mom is your mom and she's an older soul, but maybe she's like a second grader, whereas you're an 11th grader, right? So you have this illusion, and we're all sharpening each other and really bringing those souls. And every time we die and we come back, if we do, we have that veil of forgetfulness, and then we don't know. And we're like, where am I? I don't even know what the timeline is anymore. And then you're like, oh yeah. And you have the opportunity to go one way or the other, and you can polarize. And we talk about duality. You can polarize in service to others. But when you do, I don't necessarily know that you have a point on Earth anymore, because Earth is the school. So if you've already passed the test, then why are you still in high school?
Because you want to still experience everything that you can in a physical body while you're here. This is what I believe personally, is that we came here to literally be the fullest version of ourselves. There's been a lot of manipulation, there's a war on consciousness for longer than you can even imagine.
1,000,000% agree with you on that.
So a lot of what our divine birthright has been, I don't want to say taken away, but manipulated to an extent that we haven't actually fully been able to live like, in the way that we would like, most people would want. Everyone wants peace on earth or whatever, you know what I mean? So this is why I also feel like, there's going to be a time, and I'm not saying, like, I don't know what it's going to all look like, but I do believe that there is going to be, like, there shouldn't be any hungry or homeless people. Like, this shouldn't not be a thing. There's a lot of things and technologies that we don't know about either that can, heal anything. And I believe that all of that is going to come to the light.
And I would even go so far as to say, not even that we don't know about them, but we haven't been allowed the awareness that we can create them with our minds. Like, how much of humanity doesn't even realize that believing is manifestation?
Yeah, this is also why, like, when I share things, like, because there's a lot of information out there that's pretty dark, and I've been down that rabbit hole back in 2010, and so and a lot more people are aware of these things, and I've had friends that are very passionate about spreading the truth about what's going on, and I think that's great.
Oh my gosh, there's like a duality inside of duality.
Yeah,
So if you know better, then you can create a timeline that isn't.
That's what I'm saying. So
yes. Oh my God, I love that you said that.
So I'm bringing some of it up in here, but I'm not going into details because I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. Because it's funny, like, I enjoy and I listen to people who do share things because I like to know certain things, and I know my boundaries with the information that I allow in, and it inspires me to support anchoring in the timeline that we all desire. And so when I share things with people, it's in support of them staying in their power, because when I went down the rabbit hole of, the fuckery that's going on, and it's not made up, like, you can, I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening. Anyway, when I went down that rabbit hole over a decade ago, I got really depressed. I didn't have the same mindset I do right now. But what I realized in that moment was, well, what can I control? What can I do? What can I do to enjoy my experience here and to help others enjoy their experience here? And the answer was support people in standing in their power. And that's literally the foundation of everything I do, is supporting people in anchoring into their power and knowing and remembering that they are the creator of their reality, and supporting people in fueling the desired timeline that they desire. Because you're right, we do create it. And that's also why I want to anchor in I do believe we can still have a physical body and it be more peaceful here. Cause I want that. Cause I love my life. Like, I want to live really fucking long because I love being here and getting to hug people and, getting to experience myself through the world around me. So of course, like, I believe that we should be able to do that, and it's happening. And so, yeah, I'm glad you're resonating with is that was what you're getting excited about, of like the whole duality of people?
Well, the idea that there's these people that claim to be so dialed in and have this awareness of our totalitarian or total ability to co-create with source, but then at the same time, they're all doomsday. And it's like, well, you can't be both. It's like, either you're creating and you get to create a world where this doesn't exist, or you're buying into the construct.
They're buying into the construct, and they don't, some in some ways. So there's a fine balance, because it's funny, because like, there is truth to a lot of that.
There is in that timeline.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
but you can opt out of that timeline too. I mean, and you may say, well, no, I don't. But yes, you do. And there's a question I want to ask you that comes more to like the practicality of all this, because obviously, Stephanie is a coach, right? She's somebody that you can work with. She and I could literally have these nuanced conversations under the surface for hours. But I also want to acknowledge that some people are over here like, oh my God, where are they? And some people are like, well, how can I bring this into my practical reality? So while I don't want to stop our conversation, I want to bring it back to earth a little bit. And so when you've got people who recognize this intuition in themselves, recognize these gifts, recognize that they have these powers, for lack of a better word. However, their immediate situation, monetarily, relationship wise, whatever it is not to their liking. How can they harness that power that they have as a sovereign being in the moment, in spite of whatever they see reflected around them, so that they don't fall deeper into that spiral of powerlessness?
This is a practice, because we only see a fraction of what exists through our physical senses. We see our physical reality, and that's what we attach to we identify with it in a lot of ways, and that's all we see. But there's this whole invisible realm, the quantum, that we're also part of, and so we see, like, a little speck of what's actually available to us. And so it's really important to not base your inner state on your external reality. And I know it's so much easier said than done, especially if you're going through something. But the current experience is also a reflection of your past dominant vibration and thoughts that's coming into the now, if that makes sense. Like, so when we're your vibration consists of a lot of things, but let's keep it simple to your thoughts, your feelings, and how you're taking care of yourself, but mainly your thoughts and your feelings, right? So your dominant thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, create what is reflected in your reality, contribute to that. We live in a 3D world, so we have this thing called time. So things don't come right away usually, so it takes a little time. So the dominant thoughts, vibration, feelings that you've been thinking in the past might be showing up in your reality now, but they might continue to show up in your reality if you keep basing your vibration on what's happening in your reality. So this is where we need to expand our consciousness and connect to the infinite possibilities that exist outside of your physical awareness. And if you can visualize something, and if you have a desire in your heart, then it's obviously for you. And I like to look at our desires and the things that we see that we want as future memories. And so you're tapping into a reality that you do desire. So how do we actually bring that in, whatever, to like grounded, embodied practices? Visualization is only one part of the spectrum. I do a lot of embodiment stuff, and so, like, along with visualization, but this means getting clear on a few things. First of all, if you're in a place where you are in like survival mode or something like that, you need to first figure out what you need in order to get that situated, because then you're not going to be able to really have much space for anything else. So like if you're struggling financially, you need to figure something like of a side source of income or something like that, so that you can
regulate your nervous system.
Yeah. So that you can exactly regulate your nervous system to be able to connect more to your bigger dreams, right? So we've got to make sure that's taken care of. And if that is taken care of, and you're just like going into these patterns of fear of running out or whatever, because a lot of people deal with that, even people who have made it.
Oh, absolutely. It's in human design. I mean, it's in your spleen. If you have a closed spleen, then you're literally walking around like a 5-alarm fire all the time.
Really? I didn't know that. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, if you have a closed spleen, then your intuition is so keyed in that, we're calibrated as a society that like the intuitive pulse comes in and we go, it means something terrible. And what's the thing that's so easy to think of that's terrible in the world is like the money situation, right? So it's like, oh my God, we're not going to. So people with a closed spleen tend to have more money worry, not necessarily more financial problems.
Interesting. Yeah. So if you notice, like, as a repetitive pattern, you have got to practice like devotion to yourself in a way like you never have before. Like I'm talking like extra awareness of your thoughts. And if you do notice a thought or a belief or story, whatever, that is not expansive or empowering, number one, that's not your truth. That's the limited self speaking. But you've got to shift it and choose a better feeling thought and take some kind of different action in support of, what it is that you desire. And so I like to do, I do a lot of visualizations, but I actually like do a lot of self inquiry. Like I ask myself questions. Like if I notice something that keeps coming up, I get curious instead of trying to push it under the rug or say, no, I don't believe that. I'm like, okay, what are you really trying to tell me? What are you actually afraid of? And, and then like I have a conversation and shift that, But as far as other embodiment practices, I get into the like, what is the version of me who's living in that reality where, I have the new home or the new car or whatever, or the partner or the money. What is that version of me like? How does she start her day? What are her thoughts? What are her beliefs? And I actually do a lot of quantum work with another aspect,
the next level self,
an aspect of me, which is still me, but in a different reality, whatever. And I download information. I get to understand what are her thoughts, what are her beliefs, what time does she wake up in the morning? What kind of conversations is she having with people? How does she show up in her business? What are the things she's talking about? And like really, really get into that and remind myself also that this is what trips people up a lot, is that they don't always allow themselves to really feel like that if it hasn't happened yet. Like, just like money and abundance, for example, if someone understands manifestation and they like we've all been, a lot of us have been on this journey, right? You understand how it works, blah blah blah, and you're not seeing it yet, and like you're like, to really own that is to really own that. Like, does that make sense? Like, I feel like it's almost like we need to give ourselves permission to fully be our highest and truest self. The source of all that is, that's streaming through us, knows it's fucking abundant. There's no lack. And so we've got to start learning how to let ourselves just feel that way before it shows up.
Right.
And you could do that in a multitude of ways that have nothing to do with your desires. And I like to do this with dancing, because it gets me in my body. Music is an anchor. Everyone has a pump up song that gets them in a feel good mood. And it's the easiest and fastest way to shift your energy, shift your state. And so that's one of my favorite embodiment practices. And I do a lot of mirror work too.
Me too. I love mirror work. I always, my clients, one of the first things I'm like, go spend 21 days with Louise Hay and let's see how you feel. And they're always like, I hate this. This is awful. And I'm like, trust me, you're going to love me at the end. And they're like, and it's like, I know. And that was one of the, we don't have time to talk about this today, but I had a really big download about how we actually are fighting with an elusive self. Like, the person we're trying so hard not to disappoint is just an aspect of ourselves that we've created that's a shadow and ego that's like not even anything. And it's like, that's who we're afraid to piss off or upset. And oh my God, like, Stephanie, seriously, I could talk to you. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, all day long. Like, I feel like I've run a marathon, like, energetically, and that's a feeling I don't get to have a lot. So I hope you take that as a compliment. Because I'm just like, okay, like I can stay with this, and like I can have like a thought ahead, and it's just, oh my God, she's amazing, you guys. Like, okay, so let's talk about all the things that she has. So first of all, tell us about this.
Oh, my TikTok and my TikTok. Tell you about
this is where you can find her. Is
yes.
Boss Babe. This is
on TikTok.
Go ahead.
What was that?
I was just going to say, this is also the name of her community. Is
Spiritual. Oh yeah, Spiritual Boss Babe. So I'm on Spiritual Boss Babe on TikTok and Instagram. I have a Facebook group, but I'm mostly on TikTok and Instagram right now, mainly Insta. I love to share all kinds of things related to getting your message out into the world in a bigger way, embodying your power, multidimensional marketing, multidimensional manifestation, so many things. If you're a spiritual entrepreneur or just an entrepreneur who is into the energetics side of things as well,
Spiritually open.
and, a heart-centered entrepreneur, I have a really amazing free training. It's called multidimensional marketing. It's like an activation. And in that, it's one of my favorite free trainings I've ever done. I share about the new paradigm of marketing, the new paradigm of leadership, where it's much more grounded and heart-centered than the old school tactics of you got to do this to get that, and overcoming objections and using fear to
Go
drive
for an
people.
answer. Get them completely
So
on the call.
yeah, so this training is amazing. It's going to completely open you up to so many ideas. And also I share a really powerful light language activation in there as well to support you like with the energetic like shifts on a cellular level to really be embodied in your message and everything you're sharing. So it's really great. Check it out.
I love that. And then you've got this one.
Oh yeah, this is one of my really popular free hypnosises. I've had people that have listened to this hypnosis and have manifested new clients, thousands of dollars, etc. So you can listen as often as you want. I also share 11 prompts to support in shifting your money mindset. And then beyond this, I do have like a paid program, which is a 21 days of EFT and hypnosis that some people like to do beyond this to just have something to add to their ritual. But yeah, you could find that after you sign up for that one. It's really great.
That's amazing. And I'll definitely be signing up for that because, I'm totally Thank you so much for being here today. This has been incredible.
Yeah.
And I just feel so lucky to know you and be able to share you with my audience. So sending you so much gratitude, and I so appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And that will do it for this week's episode of the Dream Design Podcast. Until next week, when we have another great guest, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, and may you be at peace. Namaste.